Sorry to cut you off here, but I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with you. And this is a Pakistani problem. This is not a South Asian problem. Indians are very supportive of each other.
Yep.
Pakistanis, the first thought that comes to their mind is, let's pull this person down. Why is this person daring to, rise up? I won't take any names here, but I actually went to a very, very big director in Pakistan, very famous, and I went through proper contact. It wasn't a blind contact or anything like that. I'd never blindly contacted them. I went through a very proper contact to get in touch and discuss whether they'd like to be, whether they'd like to acquire rights or what their advice might be on this, because a lot of people keep telling me, when is the movie going to come out for one of your books and all of that. So I went through proper introduction. I never heard back. And this is a person who pretends to be a huge supporter, and it makes me realize that deep down, very few people in Pakistan will ever support you. Most of them will either dismiss you, or they will get jealous and they'll dismiss you again.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Kingdom of Dreams podcast, The Making of Stories. I'm your host, Jawad Mir. Today, my guest is author Awais Khan, who's from my hometown back in Pakistan. And he's an author who has written some incredible books, including In the Company of Strangers and No Honor. Lovely guy, very humble, well spoken. And we talked about his books, we talked about his life, we talked about his career, what's coming up. Amazing conversation. Do take a listen. So without further ado, here's my conversation with author Awais Khan. I was going through your biography. I haven't read any of your work, but I went through the books that you've done and where you've studied. So you were in Canada at some point, correct?
Yes, I spent 4 years in Canada as a student. So I was in London, Ontario. So
So you went to which university?
Western Ontario.
Western, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What year
So
was that?
that was a long time ago now. It was from 2004 to 2008. So yeah, quite some time ago.
So I guess
And
you didn't like it enough not to stay, right?
I actually, you see, I didn't really have that kind of awareness at that time.
Right.
If I had, I probably would have stayed, given what Pakistan is going through today. I mean, I wish that I had stayed over in Canada, but at the time, I guess I was just very invested in coming back to my country and all of that. So it never really occurred to me, even though it was very easy at that time. It was like super easy to get a Canadian passport. I mean, you didn't really need to do much, but I don't know.
Well, that's how life goes. It is what it is. If
Yeah.
you're meant to come back, you'll come back, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I would love to start off with the beginnings of, what kind of inspired you to become a writer. Was it an author? Was it a book? Was it somebody that you knew that you looked up to? Kind of just unfold that and how that connected to what you studied, if you studied that, and to where you are today.
I actually, in college, I didn't study creative writing at all.
Of
It was
course.
actually after college, when I had finished my master's and everything, that I finally decided that I wanted to write, because I had been a lifelong reader. And I think somewhere down the line, maybe it was in college, I guess in Canada, that I realized that this was actually a full-fledged industry, and there were like publishers, and there were, bookshops and this and that, which we don't really see much of in Pakistan. So I think when it sort of hit me that this was actually an industry. So I just wanted to explore that. So after I was done with my masters, I spoke to my parents and everything. And I was like, I'd love to pursue this as an alternate career. So they were very supportive, surprisingly, as most parents in Pakistan wouldn't be, but they were, and they financed all of these things. I took these very expensive courses in London. There was the 6 month Faber Academy course, and then I took the 3 month editing one as well. So that is where I actually started taking writing seriously. I finished my debut novel while I was taking that course, and then it took a few years for me to edit it and then get an agent for it in the UK, and then obviously took a little time for it to get out. So I was 32 by the time my first book came out.
Which one was that? Which book was that?
And that was In the Company of Strangers. So it came out in, when was it? Yes, July 2019. I remember now. Yeah. That was
Can you
kind of,
tell me? Can you tell me? I mean, it sounds like if you went to London, and you were studying writing, and then you were in the company of strangers. I don't know if it has any sort of relevancy to that. Tell me
No,
about the book, the book itself. What's it about?
it's actually it's got nothing to do with London.
I see.
It's sort of based in entirely in Lahore, and it
Okay.
deals with the secrets and lies of Pakistan's high society. So it's a very Pakistani novel, but surprisingly, that book has done really well both in the UK and in Pakistan. I mean, naturally, Pakistanis would be interested, but I wasn't expecting it to do so well in the UK. It was published twice by different publishers, and it's done quite well. So yeah.
When you say it was really received really well in UK, was it you? Do you know that it was a demographic? Because in UK there's a lot of Pakistanis, right? So was it that
No, you see,
demographic,
that's
or
the
was there
thing.
all?
That is one of the issues I have with British Pakistanis, that they are not as supportive as they should be, as other people are for their authors. I feel that British Pakistanis, yes, I have some really good British Pakistani readers, but there is such a huge diaspora of Pakistanis in the UK, absolutely huge.
Hmm.
But we don't get nowhere near as many sales as a result. Most of my readers are actually white, and they're the ones who were reading my books mostly. I think 85% of my writers are non-Pakistani, sorry, readers are non-Pakistani. So it does sort of affect me sometimes, and I wish that there was more support, because we show the support to singers, we show the support to actors, to cricketers, but we don't show the support to our authors, and I don't know why that is.
And when you say 85% are white or non-Pakistani, that's only in UK, or like basically in general?
In the UK, but I mean in Pakistan, obviously, my readers are Pakistani, but you see, Pakistan, unfortunately, Pakistan doesn't count in the grand scheme of things. When we talk about UK publishing or US publishing, Pakistan is merely a blip on their radar. They don't
Yep.
care at all about Pakistan because the circulation is so little, uh, and there's so few readers. Even though we're a country of 200 and what 25 million, we don't really, or more, I think it's 240 million, I don't know, but yeah, but we don't have a lot of readers, and the readers we do have either want the book for free, or they'll just go ahead and buy the pirated copy from Urdu Bazaar. So that's the thing.
Do you think that because in the 80s, so I grew up maybe the first 13 years in Pakistan, and I didn't know any authors per se, but dramas, there was a lot of great writers in the 80s
Yeah.
and stuff. Do you think there is a bigger readership for Urdu readers in Pakistan, or do you think that's kind of diminishing too?
I think that is also diminishing. Maybe there are more Urdu readers than English ones as of now, but it's the same story with Urdu books as well. People want to buy them for 200, 300 rupees, and they can get them from Urdu Bazaar or any, all these Instagram online stores. They're all selling
Mm.
pirated copies. So I have lost count of the number of people who have tagged me in stories where they're reading my book, and I look at it and it's obviously a pirated copy, and I just don't know what to say to them, because sometimes the readers don't even realize that they're buying pirated copies. So it's literally in the tens of thousands, the pirated copies of my books, in tens of thousands. That's the number.
Wow.
I think I was like, if all that money was came to me, I would be a rich man.
But I mean, I know there's pirated copies, obviously, from movies, and there's digital pirated copies. I never knew there was actually physical book pirated copies.
Oh,
Like,
they do it immediately. As soon as the book comes out, they'll order one off of maybe Liberty Books or Readings. They're the ones who sell originals. So they'll pick up a copy from there and instantly get it. They'll copy it. And even worse, there's another thing, the PDFs. So what they'll do is that they will get the PDF from somewhere, or they'll download the book into PDF form, and then they'll circulate. So it's pre-reading for everyone, and I get like 20, 25 messages every day on my Instagram DMs. They're like, can you please share the PDF with me? I'm like, it's one thing for you to get it from somewhere, but you're actually asking me to do this fraud and basically deprive myself of my hard earned money by asking me for PDF. So I genuinely don't know what to say to readers in Pakistan. And then they complain about the fact that we don't see a lot of Pakistani authors in the UK. I mean, this is the reason why you don't see. At the end of the day, it is the business. Publishers have to shift copies. And if you're all going to buy pirated copies, then why would any publisher want to publish a Pakistani author? So, yeah.
And you know, I can second that because I'm in the film industry, so I direct and produce films, and it's pretty much the same thing. And this is something that I've sort of talked about for the last 15 years, not just in terms of, okay, why, my films, I'm just talking in general.
Yeah.
You look at the world as it is with what's going on in the world, the narrative, and one of the reasons the narrative is more on the higher side on one side is because of storytelling.
Yeah.
One thing in the Muslim world, especially in Pakistani's community, there's no storytelling. We don't value the storytelling. Look at India. Look at Bollywood. Look at Hollywood. I mean, you can call it whatever, but there is storytelling, and people put money into it. It's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't really support. We talk about it, but we don't really. I mean, there are some people. I won't say that they do now do a little bit of backing, but still not even remotely close to the way it should be
I
because it.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but
No, no, you're
I
fine.
absolutely wholeheartedly agree with you. And this is a Pakistani problem. This is not a South Asian problem. Indians are very supportive of each other.
Yep.
Pakistanis, the first thought that comes to their mind is, let's pull this person down. Why is this person daring to, rise up? I won't take any names here, but I
So,
actually went to a very, very big director in Pakistan, very famous, and I went through proper contact. It wasn't a blind contact or anything like that. I'd never blindly contacted them. I went through a very proper contact to get in touch and discuss whether they'd like to be, whether they'd like to acquire rights or what their advice might be on this. Because a lot of people keep telling me, when is the movie going to come out for one of your books and all of that. So I went through proper introduction. I never heard back. And this is a person who pretends to be a huge supporter, and it makes me realize that deep down, very few people in Pakistan will ever support you. Most of them will either dismiss you, or they will get jealous and they'll dismiss you again. So it's either they don't think you're worth their time, and if they think you're worth their time, they'll be like, why is this person worth my time? So they'll
man.
work double hard to bring you down. So
I don't
this
know.
is,
Storytelling is just so important, man, and it's what you're doing is incredible because how many people know the stories? Because there's stories everywhere. There could be in the corner of, indigenous people in Australia, or there could be in Alaska, or there could be in, remote communities in Sin. And one of the things that I really, really like, and we're kind of on the subject of art and storytelling, what Coke Studio has done, especially in the last year or two, like where they find these talents, in the middle of nowhere, and they're telling their stories through music, and people are embracing it. But the only reason people are embracing it because there's a big brand behind them,
yeah,
Coke, right? There's financially supporting them,
absolutely.
and it is yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. I feel you. And at the end of the day, it's not really necessarily about us. It's just about, okay, if we want to tell our stories, let's go. Let's be on this road and tell our
Yeah,
story.
I and you see, this is the thing. At the end of the day, when people complain about it, that why don't we see it? I that is what I want to reiterate. I'm like, this is why you don't see a lot of Pakistani representation, because first of all, we don't get support from our own people, and then second of all, what more can you expect then? If your own people are not supporting you, how will anyone else support you?
Yeah.
So I do feel that British publishing is has given me a huge chance, and they basically took a punt on me, and it worked. Yes, I mean the books did well and everything, but they took a chance. My own people never took a chance on me. So all of this, the credit goes to UK and to India, because India, Simon and Schuster in India gave me a chance. They took on my book and they published it in South Asia. And I mean, yes, they are responsible for the entire subcontinent and everything, but still, they are not bound to publish Pakistani authors, but they did. So,
Mm.
credit to give credit where it's due. Yeah.
No, absolutely. What about Canadians? And I mean, there's a lot of Pakistanis in Canada now.
Yes, I
Uh,
know, but I have not been able to crack North America at all. North America is a whole other world entirely. And with North America, again, there's that thing that we have a huge diaspora there. But the problem is that they're only interested in their own, like, for example, Pakistani Americans. So publishers are generally more keen to publish Pakistani Americans rather than Pakistanis living in Pakistan. That is a huge issue, and that is a huge block that we face.
And I think that's because it has to, I think that has more to do with the audience than your book, because
Yeah.
there is in America, like, even like when I'm pitching, it's like the first question, who's your audience, right? If the audience is not American, okay, see you later, right? So you have to have that unless your characters are based in America and stuff, and that there's that audience, that's sure. But one thing I would tell you is that maybe you want to explore this. There is a very there was this animated film that came out from Pakistan called The Glass Worker. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Mhm.
Some young kid, right, who made it. I don't know his name. I don't remember his name.
I think I have heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it got a lot of backing to push for the Oscar campaign here in California, and in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of prominent uh, Pakistanis who are really well off,
Oh,
and they actually, I mean, you have to be somebody in order for them to sort of push you. You have to have some sort of
yeah,
reputable,
yeah.
work. Try there because I've sort of tried in that area too, and I would say it has worked maybe definitely more than in Canada.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Not as much as I would like it to be, but it's still, it's about building relationships, right? If you connect with them and if you talk to them,
Yeah, I
um,
would love to actually. My agent is based in the UK, so I think that is also a bit of an issue because so I do get a lot of exposure in the UK, but with the US, I falter because of the fact that I never been there. I mean, last time I was there was when I was a kid. But yeah, that these are some of the things, and I echo you in the fact that getting an introduction into these circles really matters. And if you have someone who can get you into these circles, then it means it basically that's half the work done. Which is why I circle back to my earlier comment that it is so important for people who are put in positions of power in this country to support emerging talent. And I mean, I'm still not as big as I would like to be. I think I'm nowhere yet, but I do my best to help anyone I can. So I mean, if you talk to people who know me and everything, I do try my best, and I try from it's not like I want anything from them. I just
hmm.
feel that we are so beleaguered as a country, and there is so much talent here, but most of it is untapped. So I try to do what I can to, uh, to help fellow writers or as much as I can. But I
But
feel that people who are in bigger positions of power in this country should do more. Maybe even the government should do more. We don't have
yeah,
any grants,
there should be
nothing.
like yeah, because arts are what defines a society, a country, a group of people, whatever that is, right? Because once we're all gone and done, what's left behind are stories,
Absolutely.
right?
So
Um,
I'll actually send you my novel, one of my novels. I think you'll really enjoy reading it. So once we're
sure,
done
would
with
love
this,
to.
I'll get your details and I'll mail you a copy.
I would love to. I appreciate that. When you're writing, they say write what you know, right? That's pretty much what works most of the time, if not all the time. What has been sort of your inspiration in any of your book, whether it's in the company of strangers or like what was the genesis of the idea? Like, was it some personal experiences or something that you had witnessed? Um, Talk to me how that sort of flow kicks in. I mean, I know how I kind of have an idea, but for my audience, I want to sort of, you know, be aware of how your work kicks in and what's the influence behind it.
As they say, writers are observers. I think it's observation is key to being a good writer. And for in the company of strangers, yes, it is mostly based on observation. But then again, people ask me that, is this based on a specific person? I'm like, it's based on everyone and no one. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like you choose bits and pieces out of people's lives and base your story on that. But if you're writing about a very different social issue, like for example, the novel that I am most known for in the UK and internationally is No Honor. So that tackles honor killings in Pakistan. So for that, I had to do a lot of research. So I had to actually go to, I went to South Punjab. My mother is from Multan, so I've been traveling to Multan. I've been going to Multan all my life. So I went to those smaller villages around Multan, and it took time to gain their trust. You needed to have someone who could make a middleman who could build trust and everything. So I did my research. I took 3 years to write No Honor. And initially, I was very sort of hesitant because I even told my agent that I don't think I'm the right person to be telling this story. And she's like, at least try and then we'll see how it goes. And then when I started writing it, the words just flowed. So I think that when it comes to a social issue or a sensitive issue, then you need to do your research as well, even if it's fiction.
Hmm.
It needs to have some grounding in reality, and that is very important because you can't really take a reader on a journey if it's the wrong journey, because readers are very clever these days. They'll immediately figure it out that you've not done your research. So yeah, so that's how it works for me.
So when you wrote the book No Honor, first of all, if you can just talk about what it's about, just the basic premise, and then when you were researching, did you speak to anybody, which I'm assuming that you did, who went through that?
Yeah.
And what, if you can share a story of that, like who you spoke to, what you heard, and what your reaction was as a human being.
Hmm. Well, yes. So No Honor is basically the story of 16-year-old Abida and her father Jamil. So it's about how Abida lives in a very small Pakistani village that has its strict rules to adhere to. And when the unthinkable happens to her, the it is decided that she will get a very public death because she is in love with someone else, and obviously she falls pregnant out of wedlock. So it is about how her father finally steps in and helps her escape, and it helps her escape to Lahore, where other dangers await her. And it's about and Abda goes to Lahore and disappears. So the book is about how her father follows her to Lahore and what happens.
Mm,
So it's a very different take on the whole honor killing concept, because a lot of people in Pakistan or in a, or and abroad feel that fathers are always the
the
evil figure.
villains, yeah,
That
yeah.
is not always true, actually. Especially in rural areas, you will find that they are in many ways a bit more enlightened than people in urban areas. As far as families go, they are a little enlightened. Yes, the top figures will be very conservative, but the actual people, they are not that backward in terms of their mindset. So I wanted to explore that, and yes, I did speak to people on the condition of anonymity, obviously, because they couldn't afford to let
Sure.
people know what had happened to them. But yeah, but then obviously when you're writing fiction, you take some creative liberty as well. That comes with the territory. So I did take some creative liberty as well, but yeah, a lot of it is rooted in what's actually happened, and the rest is my thoughts. And I feel that important. I feel it important to mention here that when you're writing something, this is a very big problem with Pakistani readers, especially that they feel that whatever is being written is the author's personal beliefs. So that is something that you need to be very careful about, because whatever, if you're writing fiction, it is not necessarily the author's personal belief. Like, for example, I could be writing about a murderer, but that doesn't make me a murderer, right? So
Mm.
it's very important to understand that if you're writing about social issues like honor killing or misogyny or shaming or anything like that, that doesn't mean the author believes that too. So yeah,
Makes sense. And I don't need to know any names, but whoever you spoke to, like when you were doing research,
yeah,
just tell me that process of how you got to that person, if you're willing to share, and then just
yeah.
your own personal, feelings, and when you're hearing this story, what you went through, because obviously you gotta feel it before you write it, right?
It actually makes you feel like you live in a bubble in Pakistan, because you realize that these are people that have very little, and even that little bit is snatched from them from time to time. And you realize that Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, they are basically bubbles. And we feel that we represent Pakistan. We are not representing Pakistan. We do not represent, it's those people who actually represent the majority of population of Pakistan, and they are the ones who are the real Pakistanis. And to see the hardships that they go through, and for the smallest of things, and that makes you realize that when people accuse you in Pakistan that, oh, you're portraying a very negative image of Pakistan by tackling these issues, I'm like, live one day in their shoes, spend one day in their shoes, and then you'll realize that these are things that have to be written about, and you can't just for the sake of portraying a positive image internationally, you can't brush these things under the rug.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I feel that there are a lot of filmmakers in Pakistan who have gotten a lot of flack for writing about things like honor killings and
Hmm.
making films about honor killings and all of that stuff. But I feel that that was very necessary. I think they've done a great job, and it is important to shine a light on these things.
100%. It's absolutely true. And you know, when you're uh sorry, I just had a question. I just lost my train of thought. Um, what is an issue, a social issue? It sounds to me that you like to write about social
I
issues,
do,
right? And I dig that because I'm somewhat in a similar boat. As much as I don't want to be, but that's just the way it is.
yeah.
Um, is there a social issue or a bunch of social issues that you would like to tackle that are going to raise some eyebrows in the society?
I think, I was actually very worried about no honor because I felt that that would be a bit poorly received in Pakistan and that would raise a lot of eyebrows. But I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how unanimously the praise has been from Pakistani readers as well. So that, gives me hope that Pakistani readers are also evolving and they're, I think they're becoming their eyes are opening towards what's happening in Pakistan. So yes, I mean there are certain issues I guess that would make anyone worry. But at the end of the day, I think as a writer, we shouldn't worry about these things because if we are not going to do our duty and shine light on these things, then what can we expect from
Exactly.
the people? So as far as I mean, as long as much you should be as brave as you can be, and then leave the
100%.
rest to fate.
I'm just saying, asking. I'm not asking for any other reason. Let's say no on it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like if it was a West, nothing to do with me. If it was a Western producer that came on, and said, I want to tell the story,
yeah.
would you be open to that? The reason I ask is because sometimes there's that fear of them sort of exploiting the story and changing it up a little bit for their own political
I
or
I think
narrative.
it's actually better that
Mm.
to work with a Western producer because they have the money, and you don't. They it's not necessarily exploitation if they have someone reasonable on board in terms of writing and direction. So if they involve me in the writing process, and if I am to work with the script writer, I would be more than happy to do this. I think they. You see, this is again another issue I have with Pakistanis that they feel that if anyone else is making anything on them, they're like, no, they shouldn't be allowed to. But sometimes they do justice to
I
our
agree. I
our
agree.
issues and our, and
Because
it's not an all white operation anyway.
what
You
happens
see,
is I've
a lot of
seen.
Pakistanis.
Sorry, go on.
No, no, you go ahead.
No, but please, Wes, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
There is a bit of delay, I think, in this conversation, which is why we're speaking over each other. But I just meant that it's not usually an all-white operation anyway. That these days, I think there is a certain awareness that if a producer is going to take up a project based in Pakistan, they would not ask. They wouldn't have an all-white crew for it. So they would probably want a Pakistani writer to consult on it, and they would probably want a Pakistani director to be involved in some capacity. So they're not stupid. So a lot of people here think that, oh, they're pandering to the West, they're the white gaze and this and that. Yes, to some extent, yes, that happens, but you have to give credit to these people as well that they're not stupid. They will not make a project on something that they have no understanding of. So
Yeah, and the
yeah,
reason I asked you that, so I also believe doesn't matter about this conversation. We all have our own perspectives and our, for the lack of a better word, I don't want to use the word agenda, but we all have our agendas, right? We all have certain things to say that we want to say. But I do think you're right because I have seen that in front of my eyes. It's like, oh, you're gonna go to XYZ, why them? Okay, well, why not? Okay, you're willing to back it up? Do you have money? Do you have access? Do you have
I know,
resources?
yeah,
Right? No, okay, then what? Are you gonna pay my bills? Are you gonna take care of my, salary and everything? No,
exactly.
okay. So you're right. I mean, I would say probably 25 years ago, like before 9/11, things were different. But I think, incidentally, today
Oh
is
yeah,
September 11th. After 9/11, there has been a lot of in Hollywood and even UK. There's a lot of consultation. Like they bring people on board just to make sure that certain
oh yeah.
things are done properly. Still, sometimes they fall short, but hey, it's to me, it's better than nothing. It's a small progress, and look where we have come. I mean, now it's like a totally different ball game. How you uh, everybody has social media, people will erupt if and now it's gone the other
I
direction where
know.
things might be okay what they're saying, but people might take offense to it. So, it's just a kind of like a pendulum that swings back and forth.
It is tough, and it's also tough for writers these days because people, like I said, that people often mistake what they read in a book as the author's personal beliefs, and they're like, "This is what
Yeah,
the author thinks of." I'm like, this is the first basic rule of fiction that whatever you're writing is not your personal belief. It could be, but it's generally not. So I think that you should take whatever you read in fiction with a huge pinch of salt.
yeah,
Unless it's a memoir, these are not the author's personal thoughts.
I agree. I agree.
So yeah.
Uh, Aside from your books that are possibly going to be turned into films, which I hope to do, anything that you want to that you're researching that you're probably in the process without I'm not knowing anything about the story that you want maybe just touch upon the topic that you're tackling in the next, let's say, few years or 3 years.
Yeah, so I have actually finished writing my next book. It's with my agent at the moment.
Mm,
This one is about I wanted to examine the sort of divide between the rich and poor in Pakistan. So this is about two women in very different circumstances, but how they come together, how
mm,
circumstances bring them together. That is one project, and then there's another book that I've almost finished, and that one I'm obviously I'm not gonna share the story, but that one is interesting to me for one big reason, and that is that the protagonist is a 77-year-old female in that book.
oh nice,
So
that's
I
very
feel that
different.
older people are not written about, or we don't have a lot of older characters, especially older main characters in Pakistani fiction, and that is something I really want to change. And I want to show that just because you're past a certain age, you're over a certain age, doesn't mean that the passion for life fades, or your dreams fade, or you know that life itself fades. So this is a project that's very close to my heart, and I can't wait to share it with everyone. So, yeah.
Good for you, man, good for you. How long does it take you to write a book from research to finishing research and then starting to writing the manuscript and writing, like what's I know a difference from project to project, but still just to kind of get an average overview.
That is a very that's a very good question actually, and I think it totally depends on the kind of book you're writing. Like for example, within the Company of Strangers, I wrote it in 6 months while I was taking the course. With No Honor, it took 3 years. With my latest, which is In the Shadows of Love, it's the sequel to In the Company of Strangers because In the Company of Strangers did so well. My publishers in the UK were like, "Would you be open to writing a sequel?" So I wrote it. They gave me a 3 month deadline for that timeline. So I wrote that in 3 months. So it totally depends on the kind of book
Mm,
you're writing. If it's something that needs a lot of research, then you need to give it time. But if it's something that's predominantly based on on observation and what you have lived through yourself, then I think you can write in a month or two. It's that easy. So it totally depends on the content that you're writing.
yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. And I was just gonna ask you again. I had this sort of brain freeze here. When you are, yeah, when you are writing a book, whether you're in the middle, you're in the beginning, or you're close to the end. I'm sure you've had, I don't like to use the word writer's block, but there's always those moments when you're sort of like stuck and you're trying
Mhm.
to figure out, okay, if this character should go on this journey and if he or she does, then is that connecting to the next set of events? There's a flow and is it realistic and all that. Has there been, I'm sure there's been more than, but if you can remember one time that you had that moment where you couldn't figure things out and how to move forward in the story, what did you do to sort of
You
figure
know,
that out? Would you take a break?
you see, I have the answer to this now. I used to think that there was no answer to this, that there was no cure for writer's block, but there is. And that cure is a deadline. I swear it really works.
I
I
agree with you.
was uh, I was in at the Emirates Festival last year, and I had a deadline for my latest book, and I wrote to my publisher and agent. I was like, "Oh, actually, I'm at the festival. I'm having a great time. I just don't have the inspiration right now." And I was supposed to send the book in. And I was like, "I just have a couple more chapters to go. Is it okay if I send after a month?" And they wrote back to me that we have a timeline and you have to deliver on the deadline. And this is the deadline. And the deadline was like in a week. And then I was at the festival, but because it was like a sword hanging over my head. By hook or by crook, I finished it. And you'd be surprised the inspiration did come to me. And I felt that maybe this was like horrible work. And I was like, no, this is probably my worst work. I sent it to my agent and then she sent it to the publisher. And the publisher got back to me. She's like, Avais, this I think is your best work. I'm like, are you actually for real? And she's like, yes. So I'm like, okay, then that means that I do well under pressure. I think that is the cure for writer's block. If you don't have an external deadline, then set one for yourself. Give yourself a month or 2 months, and then you automatically your mind goes into that sort of mindset. Your brain starts acting that way, and it will continue getting inspired that way. So yeah.
I couldn't agree with that more. Almost 100% of what I've done in the last 25 years of my life, whether, it has been creative, whether it's uh, branding stories for companies, whether it's commercial, whether it's events, anything, even like documentaries that I've directed. Anytime I have been under tight deadline, because you don't start to second guess yourself. You start going with your instincts, right? And instincts normally almost close to 100% of the time are accurate. And then you just go boom,
Absolutely.
boom, 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 boom. Because yeah, when you just start
Exactly
thinking,
that.
well, what this happened, that happened, what do I do, then you're done. You're screwed.
You don't have time to second guess yourself when you're on a deadline, and I think
Yeah,
that really works. And we trust our gut and we go ahead with it. So I think it really helps.
100%.
Yeah.
Amazing,
Mhm.
man. Are you just to kind of wrap things up, is there something that you want to do where for upcoming writers, maybe workshops, or are you planning on something, or just to
I actually run Pakistan's biggest creative writing school. So I've been doing that for the
mashallah.
last 10 years now.
Good for
And I
you,
mean,
man.
it used to be a physical thing. It was a physical location in Lahore, but now we've moved entirely online after COVID. So we basically, I have taught over 10,000 people. 10,000 people have taken my courses. And in addition to that, I also offer editing services. So I have edited, I think, over 100 people. And a lot of the people I have edited, a lot of these authors have gone on to secure agents and publishing deals and so yeah, so I mean, I'm definitely not bragging. None of this is
No,
to
no,
do
no.
with
This is
me. It's all
great.
to do with their talent.
Yeah.
I'm just there to hone it a little bit and just elevate it a little bit. But I do try my best. And I started off with charging. I mean, for my courses, I still charge a very small fee. Like for example, a course in the UK would cost you a 6 week course would be easily for 300 or 400 pounds easily. I charge 15,000 rupees, which is not even 50 pounds. So,
Yeah.
these are the charges because I know that Pakistanis can't afford to pay that kind of money. And even with my editing, my rates for Pakistani authors are almost half of what I charge someone who's not from Pakistan. So I try to
Right.
do as much as I can, but like you said, that at the end of the day, you have to pay the bills somehow. So I can't really do it all for free.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
No, no, you shouldn't, because it's not even about just paying the bills, but it also devalues your work,
it
right?
does, it does.
Like for example, like these two posters right in the back are two of my films, and whenever I meet somebody, what there will be always like one person who would ask every few weeks, so is it on YouTube? No, you have to rent it or you have to, buy it. Why don't you put it on
I,
YouTube? Why would I? If you really want to watch it, then you'll go watch it, because if it's on YouTube, you're still not going to watch it. So why should I? So it's all about not devaluing your work too. It's not necessarily just about money, which as important as it is, but when you put something out for free, then
No,
people
you're
don't care for
absolutely
it.
right.
People don't care
Yeah.
for it.
I mean, I
Just
get
like
asked all the time that when will your books be adapted by Netflix? I'm like, I wish it was that easy to get in touch with
I
Netflix.
know.
And, they seem to think that I'm just one step away from signing a deal with Netflix. I'm like, I just wish it was true, but it isn't, unfortunately. And I was like, there are a lot of slips between the cup and the lips in this industry. So I don't know when or if my work will ever be adapted. I mean, the best I can do is I can sign them off for a reasonable amount, and that's it. I don't have control after that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
inshallah, man. For sure. No, that's great. Anything else you want to sort of wrap up by? This has been really pleasure, and thank you for being open and
Um,
or organic and authentic and everything. It's been really
yeah.
nice.
No, I feel I've always been very spontaneous with my interviews and with everything, with anything in life, even with my creative, my books and everything. I've always believed in spontaneity and I've always believed in kindness as well. Also, the value of giving back and getting back. And because when you give back, you sort of get a lot in return as well. And I have built so many connections because of the fact that I may have done someone a good turn and it sort of comes back to me tenfold. So I totally believe in that, and because this is a because you have interviewed so many big people and so many popular,
No,
famous
no, no.
people, much more popular than I would be ever.
We're all
So
the
it is
same,
a
man.
huge honor to be on this podcast, and thank you so much for your support and for showing interest in Pakistani authors because we don't get a lot of interest, and whenever someone does show interest, I think it's really nice and it feels really nice. So thank you for that.
No, thank you for being on the podcast. I mean, I learned something new
My pleasure.
that I didn't know before, and I'm looking forward to reading your books. I'm not a
Yeah,
fast
please.
reader. I'll
Just
be very honest. I'm a very slow
no, no,
reader.
no, no, no issues at all. Just send
But
me, just email me your details, and I'll pop some copies over to you.
sounds great, man. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, then. Take
All
care.
right.